In the battle against climate change, the Scottish Government has adopted what it's hailed as world-leading targets. But are they now in danger of becoming pretty meaningless? Today, the Independent Climate Change Committee concluded it's no longer credible that Scotland will meet the goal of reducing emissions by 75% by 2030. The environmental experts also say there is no comprehensive strategy to decarbonise towards net zero, which ministers want to get to by 2045. The Cabinet Minister in charge of Scotland's climate change policies is Mary McCallan, who spoke to STV's political editor Colin Mackay.
The Climate Change Committee report is out today. It's a bit of a reality check for the Scottish Government, isn't it?
Well, what I would say, first of all, is that I absolutely value the advice of the Committee on Climate Change. They are our statutory advisors. I value the advice that's come out in this report today, but equally we've got ongoing dialogue with them. I think in respect of the 2030 comments that they have made, this is largely a re-articulation of the position that they set out when, on a cross-party basis, the Scottish Parliament set the 2030 targets in 2019. My general view is that the SNP and our partners, the Greens in government, are absolutely committed to tackling climate change. No government, frankly, can say that they're doing enough until we get to 2045, but it does no one any favours to underplay the magnitude of the challenge of that.
It's not quite a re-articulation, because in 2019 they said it was challenging. Now they're saying you're failing.
The Committee on Climate Change previously recommended a 70% reduction target at 2030, and as I say, the Scottish Parliament on a cross-party basis opted to vote for 75. They've always been clear that this was
very much... And they say you're failing. They say you're failing.
They say that we were pushing at the boundaries of what was doable, and they've re-articulated that today. Now, as I say, I take very seriously the advice of the CCC, and therefore I will give very careful consideration. I'm already giving active consideration to how I respond to it. They're
not saying you're pushing the boundaries, they're saying you're failing. They're saying you're failing to deliver.
What I was originally reflecting on is the fact that we are talking here about a transformation right across our economy and society, and nobody should underplay what's required in order to meet that. Scotland's targets were always exceptionally stretching. I think that was a good thing. I think that has meant that we have gotten further than we might otherwise have been. We are now nearly halfway to net zero. We continue to decarbonise faster than the UK as a whole, and I am really proud of the actions that we have taken in pursuit of that. But no government will ever be able to say they're doing enough, and I'll keep pushing for more.
But you can't be proud that the Committee on Climate Change says that you're failing to meet these targets. However stretching you are, you're failing.
I don't accept that, and it's all in the context...
It's in the report.
The Committee on Climate Change have been clear that they don't think there is a credible pathway to 2030. And I've already said, as any reasonable government will do, we will consider that. We're already considering very carefully how we respond to it. But in the time since we announced a climate emergency, Scotland has completed the world's largest offshore floating wind farm leasing round. 75% of all the trees and forests created in the UK have been in Scotland. We've developed low emission zones. We've got the most generous concessionary travel scheme for bus travel anywhere in the UK. We've banned single-use plastics. We have 37% of our oceans in protected areas. All of that has contributed to the progress we made. I don't underestimate the progress that's still to be made, though.
And yet, in 8 of the last 12 years, you've failed to meet your target, and now they say you're going to fail to meet your 2030 target. You're failing.
So I think there is something instructive there, which is to say that...
Do you accept that you're failing on this?
I accept the recommendation of the Committee on Climate Change that 20...
Do you accept their analysis that you're failing?
I don't think that that is the bottom line analysis of the Committee on Climate Change.
It's a word that they use in the report.
They've talked about the 2030 target no longer being credible. And I've already said that I need to...
Which means that you're failing to reach that.
Well, it's not the case. I mean, the Committee on Climate Change, for example, pointed out the progress that's been made on decarbonising Scotland's energy systems. They were complementary of the work we've undertaken this year on heat and buildings, a massive contributor to climate change. And there are other packages of work that we'll be taking forward this year. The two key issues that I take from the report are a re-articulation of their view that 2030, 75%, there is not a pathway there, and that they should have preferred that a climate change plan was in place for them to assess at this point. Now, I equally regret that we weren't able to take forward the climate change plan last year. It was a time of too much economic and political volatility. Under the current regime, it isn't due until next year, and we're considering all of that now.
And when will we get the indication of that plan, the actual plan itself?
Well, I hope you'll understand that as our statutory advisors, if the advice that I have received is that there is a target on the statute book that is now no longer achievable, I have to consider how I address that, and legislation could be the option there. That's all being actively considered.
But you're due to deliver a draft in November, you're due to deliver the plan in March next year, is that right?
Under the current regime, yes.
So what will you actually deliver on that? Will you meet those targets?
Well, I have
to... those are easier targets to meet because these are just for plans, aren't they?
Well, plans to decarbonise right across the whole economy of Scotland are not easy to produce. There's a lot of work that's already been done.
So you're saying you might miss those target dates as well?
What target dates, sorry?
The target dates of March for a draft plan, November for a draft plan, and then March next year for an actual plan to deliver.
No, sorry, what I'm saying is under the current statutory regime, that's when they're due, but I've already said today that in light of the advice from the Committee on Climate Change, we are having to actively consider all options, including legislation.
Are you even going to hit the 2045 target?
I believe we will, absolutely. I am confident about Scotland's ability to meet mid-century net zero. Indeed, this morning, Chris Stark, in some of his commentary, was, despite having been quite clear about his view about 2030, said there is a pathway to 2045. I'm confident we will meet that.
Minister, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Thank you.